When I'm painting Decovil, I like to use newspaper underneath because it's absorbent. And I also keep my newspapers. So whenever I'm painting something, I'll let it dry out in between and then use it again and again. And you get a rather nice build up of different colours. And that's how a new starting point was born. So I have the Decovil here. In this case, it's Decovil Light, but it's just the same with Decovil 1, the heavier one. You just need a bit more paint because it's thicker. So I have a little dog tin with some acrylic paint that I've watered down and a nice wide paintbrush, and I have a jug of water to rinse my brush in. So I'm just going to splosh this on. It really isn't hard work. You just pop it on. If you're anything like me, and I should be wearing an apron, but I'm not. So you can't see, but I'll be honest. So if you've painted Bondaweb before, you'll know that you can't use paint that's too thick because you'll clog up the glue. And it's the same with Decovil. You need to paint it, but not with neat acrylic. So I'd water it down by at least half with water. So I think you can see how wet and runny that is. A nice bright yellow because it's chucking it down with rain outside. So it's nice and bright in the studio. So I'm just painting the shiny side, giving it a good coverage. Doesn't matter how wet it is because it's going to dry. You'll find that the paint will soak through to the back, which is good because you want paint on both sides. And you also want to have the colour running through the Decovil so that when you cut the edge, you have a coloured edge rather than just the lovely beige that Decovil is. There's nothing wrong with beige, but colours are a bit more fun. So that's all painted. Obviously, it's very difficult to do this. And we go back to the sticky side. Now you can see that this paint is very wet underneath. So I would recommend that you then put your wet Decovil on another piece of newspaper to dry. Put this wet newspaper to one side to dry, and then you can use it for torn papers and all kinds of applique. One thing I will say about Decovil, it can take a little while to dry. It can take overnight, and what you need to do is to keep lifting it and maybe keep changing the newspaper if it gets wet, because what will happen is paint will stick to paint. And if you have paint on the back of your Decovil and on the newspaper and they both dry, then you'll have beautifully decorated Decovil covered in newspaper the following day. So I would keep lifting it to make sure that it isn't sticking to the paper, and maybe keep changing the newspaper as well. Don't pop it onto baking parchment or plastic because they're not porous and you want this to dry. I would do this the day before you need it, depending on how warm the temperatures in the room are. Obviously, it's difficult. How long will it take the Decovil to dry? Who knows? It depends on how warm your room is and how wet you've made the Decovil. So just be careful when it's drying that it doesn't stick to the newspaper. So maybe keep changing the newspaper, and then you'll have really pretty newspaper as you keep building up the colour. So there is no loss anywhere. And then you need to wait for it to dry. It's very important that the Decovil is dry before you use it.